Welcome to a new episode Beyond Perception, as always, with the intention to uncover more of who we truly are. My name is Simon, and it is my great joy to be here today with Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor as my guest. And I just told you already, I'm very excited about this conversation with you and to, first of all, introduce you to our listeners. The very few people on this planet who don't know you yet. You are Harvard-trained and published neuroanatomist and the author of, first of all, your memoirs, My Stroke of Insight, Brain Scientist's Personal Journey, but then also your recent book, Whole Brain Living, The Anatomy of Choice and the Four Characters That Drive Our Life. And in 2008, you gave that famous first TED Talk, the first TED Talk that ever went viral on the internet, which I think by now has around 30 million views. And then also in the same year, you were chosen as one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in the world and being the first guest on Oprah Winfrey's Soul series webcast. So welcome, Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor. It's a great joy.
Thank you, Simon. I'm happy to be with you. It's a great subject. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, likewise. And I mean, that might not be a surprise to you, but I got to know you through your famous TED Talk, which I watched a few years ago. And it was special to me because it combined, on one hand, a completely fascinating, captivating, experiential insight into what is beyond our normal perception, but then also this more rational, objective description of different functions in the brain and how they interplay with our perceptions. So I'm very curious to talk about those topics with you today. But then there's one thing I want to share and also then directly ask you, because when I reached out to you to invite you to this podcast, I think your assistant replied to me that by now you have given more than 250 podcast interviews. And I was like, oh man, that's incredible.
I know. It's beautiful for me because, everybody's got a brain. And every podcast is about something that a group of people want to talk about and enjoy talking about. And so brain kind of fits into everybody's podcast because everybody's got a brain. And really, this is about perception. And so that fits into the brain, So whether I'm talking about mom rage, which is what young moms are experiencing as they become overwhelmed with too little sleep. Well, that's about the brain too. So it doesn't matter what the subject is of these beautiful podcasts. It's about the brain. So I've just been having a wonderful time talking to people.
That's incredible. Yeah, we have our perception in every area of our lives, right? So there's no escape from it. But then also I wanted to ask you this because you radiate that passion now. And when I heard 250 podcasts, I thought, oh, wow, this is more than most podcasts have in total episodes, including mine. What drives you? Where's this passion coming from? Why are you sharing about this?
Well, the TED Talk was a great success in certain ways. It introduced my experience to the world. It was the breakdown of a left brain, what's going on in the right hemisphere, who are we as people, and what can we learn about that experience, through the eyes of a brain scientist. So that was fascinating to people. And, I took you on this journey. So, then I traveled around the world and people recognized me in Scotland, Hong Kong, Antarctica, everywhere. And everybody approached me with this beautiful sense of reverence because with the TED Talk, now we are brothers and sisters and we're connected. And that was great, but I didn't need that reverence. What I wanted the TED Talk to do was to give each of us reverence for our own life, our own selves, and every person on the planet. And it missed. And so literally I've spent 10 years trying to figure out how can I communicate this in a way that people will understand? And when I realized that most people think we have two thinking brains. We know that. We got the, right, creative, open to possibility. We have the left, rational thinking. But then people think we have one emotional system, one amygdala, one hippocampus, one cingulate gyrus, but we don't. We have two of those also. And when people heard that, no, we have two, there was an audible gasp in the room where I was presenting this material. And then I instantly knew that's how I communicated. People don't realize we have two emotional systems. They each function differently. We have two thinking modules of cells. They each function differently. And each of these four modules of cells produce a personality. And when we get to know each of these four personalities inside of each one of us, because it's based on the brain anatomy, oh my gosh, our lives make more sense. Now, how can I not get excited about talking about that to 250 podcasts? Right? Because, oh my gosh, I want a more peaceful planet. And I truly believe that when people understand what's going on inside of their own head, then they can negotiate themselves and their lives, and they can create more inner peace, and then they can project that peace out into the world, and we will have a more peaceful world. So that's why I'm so excited about it, and that's why I'm still talking about it with enthusiasm.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for that. And you mentioned a couple of things just now. You talked about self and personalities, and very often, at least that's reflected in my own journey, is I think I'm what I think, but possibly that's just a fraction of what I could have access to, or how I could express myself. And how has been your discoveries, and also the model you're presenting in your book about the four characters and the four parts, the forming personalities in our brain, can help to uncover new perceptions about ourselves.
Exactly. I mean, it just all of a sudden, I'm not just like reacting on automatic. I'm not having emotions that I can become aware of everything I'm experiencing. I can know which group of cells in my brain is resulting in that. I know which patterned responses each of those personalities end up having. I can learn what do they feel like inside of my own body. So, I mean, I've known you for 5 minutes, and I can tell you a few things about yourself, so I'm going to. So,
Please,
for example, yes. So your character one is that left thinking module of cells. And this is the part that is rational. It's organized. It places us in relationship to a civilized world. And it's the part that defines what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad. Well, you were a banker. I mean, Lord knows you were probably dressed in suits with ties. I don't know what they're like in Germany, but that's certainly what they're like in the US. Yeah. You were on time. You had a schedule. You were busy. You liked to be the boss. You used language. You thought inside of a box. You had certain things that you did. You had patterned responses to all of that. And you must have done that well, because look at you, you're not doing that anymore. But that's the patterning of our A-type personality that goes to work and gets things done and is happy inside of that structure. So we all have a character one. We all have that left thinking part of our brain. We also have a left emotional part of our brain, which is still around me, the individual, me and my identity. And it has a past and it has a future, because that left hemisphere has linearity across time. And so somehow or another, those beautiful cells, those emotional cells in the left hemisphere, step out of the present moment experience of the right here, right now, and looks at the information in the present moment and passes it into the memory banks so that it can tell me, is there something in my immediate environment that is either dangerous or a threat to me? And if it is, I'm going to push it away and I'm going to say no. So this part of our brain is most comfortable around that which is familiar. People who look like me, people who speak like me, people who care about the things I care about. That's familiar. Those people feel safe. And other people who are different from me, this part of me goes into alarm, alarm, alert, alert. I'm not sure if that's a threat or not, but I'm going to go look in my past and see if there's some reason for me to push away. I have not seen that part of you yet. But then I saw immediately as we started our conversation, look at the joy in you. Look at how happy you are. You're right here, right now. You got your wings all aflutter. And this is the curious, creative, open, likes to be with others, cares about humanity, cares about talking about something that will bring us together and unite us instead of bust us apart and break us off. And then character 4, so that's the emotional thinking, the emotional tissue in the right hemisphere, and then the thinking tissue is our connection to all that is, and it's loving and it's open and it's gracious and it's kind and it's filled with incredible gratitude that we're alive at all. So, I've already seen 3 of your 4 characters inside of 10
the other
minutes.
one is there as well, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure he is, but my guess is he's not going to show up today for me. Maybe for he might, but not
I
for
would
me.
be okay if it doesn't show up, to be honest.
But we know it well, don't we? We know that part well.
Yeah. So, the book title of your recent book is Whole Brain Living. Is it about better understanding those different aspects of oneself, to not be identified or being run by it in autopilot?
Absolutely. Whole brain living introduces you to, first of all, the evolution of a mammal. And the evolution of a mammalian nervous system is, let's say you have a species and let's say you've got a reptile, right? Big difference between a reptile and a mammal. So let's say you're a reptile and the reptile has the level of information processing information that is pretty much yes, no. I'm hungry, I eat, I'm done. I want to mate, I'm done. So that's pretty much on-off switches. And then new tissue gets added up on top of that. And that's the difference between a reptile and a mammal. And the mammal then has this emotional or experiential tissue added on. And it's bilateral. There's 2 of them. And the right one is about placing an emotion on the experience of the present moment. And the left hemisphere is about about the present moment, take it to the past, and then I'm going to tell you how I feel about it once I figured out if it's an alarm, alert, and I need to fight, flee, or play dead. So we have that level of processing for mammals, and then we add new tissue on top for the human, which is our thinking tissue. So we all have this tissue. And when you know the skill sets of each of those modules of cells, because they all do very different things, like language, my ability to speak language is in my left thinking cerebral cortex, but my ability to detect the emotional content of what you say to me or to read your facial language or your body language, that's in my right brain. So all of these abilities, every ability we have is because we have cells that perform that function. And when we understand these 4 groups of skill sets and the personalities that end up coming out because they naturally would, then it's like, oh my gosh, I can tell immediately which character I'm in, and I can pick and choose if I'd rather be in another. Say, for example, right before this, a friend of mine sent me a care package. Okay, goodies in it. Character 3, playful, curious, wants to go open my package. Right? Somebody sent me a care package. What's in there? So that's my little emotional character 3 of my right hemisphere. But I've got character 1 in my left thinking saying, we got 2 minutes. We don't have time to go out and get that. We don't have time to open it up. You're going to have to just settle down and we're going to sit here. We're going to look at it. But you can't open that yet, right? So it's this ongoing negotiation. And when you actually know who the team is inside of your own head, then they're your team. And then you gain the power to pick and choose who and how you want to be in any moment. It's beautiful.
Yeah, when I listen to you, it sounds very much.
Don't we wish more people had that ability? Don't we
Absolutely.
wish that more people had the ability to take some responsibility for what they're thinking and for their emotional outbursts and be both intellectually, cognitively, and emotionally accountable? I mean, this is the potential evolution of humanity. But how do we do that? If we know what our choices are, if we can differentiate who we are in the world, who we are inside of our own head, then that's all the power in the world.
I mean, one of the what stuck with me by listening to you and also reading your book is I think it's something along the lines of freedom, or it's just one choice away or one thought away. So what you keep insisting is a peace. It's just a choice, and
it's a choice. Absolutely. And if I hook into my stress circuitry and I'm running my stress circuitry and I'm feeling that anxiety inside of my body, or I'm feeling fear, or I'm feeling like I'm not worthy or that I have no value, well, that's a group of cells inside of my brain. And they're sharing that information with me. That's my little emotional character too, which is all the pain from my past. And I can go and I can explore that with the other healthy parts of my brain. I can nurture that. I can support myself. I can love myself. I can pull myself up out of that pain back into the present moment where I simply am as big as the universe. So we each have these abilities to differentiate who's talking to who inside, and who needs to be loved, and who of me can give that love to myself, who gets in the way of my ability to love or nurture myself, and who wants to go play. I mean, it's differentiation. It's like I have 5 fingers and I can use my hand like a claw because I can differentiate the use of each of those fingers. If all I have is a paw, then I'm not going to be able to do much with it because it's just a paw. But when I differentiate, now I have dexterity. And this is dexterity of thinking and feeling.
And I mean, the term hemispheric synchronization, is that something which is in line or describing what you refer to, or is that something, is that another context? Is it about creating balance between the different parts of our brain?
I'm interested in differentiation, not in synchronization. Mm-hmm. Synchronization, well, think about us as biological creatures. We are cells, and we are the life of each of those cells. So a cell is not just organic atoms and molecules. It is an energetic consciousness, if you will, even if it's as it is related to that individual cell. So I'm nothing other than 50 trillion cells, and a single cell is an organism that is capable of life in and of itself. So I'm just a very complex cellular life. And I am both matter, mass, and I am energy. And the synchronization systems synchronize the different circuits inside of our brain. And in doing so, it neutralizes predominance of anyone or anything inside of there. It brings it all into some kind of a communicable balance. For me, I want to differentiate. I want to know what my choices are. I don't want to simply be all in fluid connection. I do want that, but I believe that I gain that by choice, and I gain the ability to manipulate that as an individual when I know what my differentiation choices are. That's my power. Not that I'm all blended, because my guess is, and I haven't done the some of these companies that do that, because instinctively I don't want that. What I want is I want to be able to know I have the power to choose. And as soon as I let someone else stop messing with the energy in my brain, I have no idea what I'm going to end up as, but I'm going to end up right now. I have a clear understanding, and I don't want to go there. personally, because I have worked with different systems. I've worked with different neurofeedback systems. I've worked with some strange, interesting modulation systems, and I've had some experiences that I don't ever want to have again. So for me, I just want to follow the anatomy. The anatomy is simple. It's clean. These modules. But ultimately, I have an intellectual consciousness, and I want to be able to use that and the emotional, experiential experience of knowing who I am as a human being, and that I have the ability to choose when I line them all up and I say, okay, I know each of these personalities. I know what they feel like inside of my body. I know how they speak. I know how they act. I know how they look. I know what they like to do. I know what they don't like to do. And I can, in an instant, embody any of those parts of who I am.
In spiritual teachings, there is a reference to, you could say, 3 types of I: the personal I, the persona, the identity, the soul, as a consciousness or individual expression, but then also the transpersonal, maybe not identified self anymore. How do you connect them to the different characters, if at all?
Yeah, so you essentially just described Carl Jung's 4 primary archetypes. Would you agree with that? Or do you know?
Yes. I read you also writing about those archetypes.
Yeah. So me, the individual, the individual, I don't exist in the right hemisphere. The right hemisphere doesn't have an ego. It's not. So the value structure of the right hemisphere. So think about it. I have a group of cells right back in here, parietal region on the left hemisphere. And those cells are an orientation association area that define for me a holographic image of me. So I think I begin and end where my skin meets the air. That holographic image knows that this nose is mine, but these glasses that sit upon my nose, they are not mine. They are not of me, right? So I have in my left hemisphere, through that group of cells, a holographic image of where I begin and end. Well, if you wipe that out, what do I have? I simply have no perception of me, the individual, where this is where I begin and end. Instead, I am the atoms and molecules in density that makes up this organic mass of what I am as a living creature, but I'm still this enormous ball of energy. If I have 50 trillion molecular geniuses working together as this mass, well, there's an energetic that's related to all of that. So without that definition of self in that left brain, I become as big as the universe because my energy mingles with your energy, mingles with energy on the other side of the planet. There's no differentiation or separation except for this beautiful group of cells in my left brain. So when people try to get to God or get to some bigger experience of themselves than me, the individual, they have to quiet that group of cells in that character 1 left hemisphere and calm down that perception of me, the individual, my ego center, my likes, my dislikes, my rights, my wrongs, my goods, my bad. Quiet those centers use prayer to preoccupy that center, use mantra, use meditation, use yoga, whatever these tools are, they quiet what's going on in that character 1 and character 2, which revolves around me, the individual. And then it shifts me where? Into the present moment. And in the present moment, me, the individual in my right hemisphere doesn't exist. So we have these different perceptions of me, individual. Me, identify my ego is that left thinking tissue. Me, myself, world revolved around me, and I'm not very happy about it. And I have a longevity. And this is where my pain is. This is where my addiction is. This is where my childhood trauma is. This is everything that relates to me emotionally in that character 2 emotional system. Character 3, right emotion. Character 4, right thinking. Me, I, the individual. I shift into more of the collective, simply in that right hemisphere. And then the true self, the authentic self, the myself that is big as the universe, I access that ability, the ability to feel that, because I have character 4 right thinking tissue. Wipe that out, and people say, well, I can't find God. And then I routinize over minutia, details, more details about those details.
It's I mean, I've studied it quite a bit. That's why I bring it up. But in the spiritual practice, there's often the talk about karma, and you have to kind of work yourself through that karma. But what you're sharing, it brings another perspective on that. It like from what you're saying, it's literally just a perception that we need to work through karma from that sense.
I think that as I think about karma is pattern, it's energy patterning. And if I live a life where I'm in my character 2 and I'm not very happy about anything, and I'm mean to other people, and I may be even cruel, I may be cruel to myself, but my energetic is one of unfavor, disfavor, and that's what I'm projecting into the world. That becomes the energy field of me, right? That becomes strong because that's what I'm running in my brain. That's the circuitry, and that's how I'm behaving. And that's going to create a very different energetic pattern than if I'm in my little playful self. And if I'm in my little playful self and I'm open to possibility and I'm living in the present moment and I allow my joy and I'm creative and I'm artistic or I'm musical or I'm physically active in my body and I love other people and I'm very forgiving and very open, very empathic, then that's going to be a different energetic pattern. And we know these people, right? I can probably list people, 5 people in each of those categories who I know tends to have a certain energetic pattern, which is their primary dominant. But it's just their primary dominant. They have all 4. And for me, then it's the loosening of each of those dominant patterns. And I can loosen it, not just to say I want to loosen it, but I know where I'm going now. I know that there's a core character profile here. I'm going to practice that. I'm going to do things and think things, and I'm going to create a new energetic patterning around that. Say, for example, I'm not a very happy person and I'm not very good at work, right? I just, I will do absolutely the least amount I have to do to get paid, right? There are these people, you know them, I know them, they're in every system, right? So we have those people. But let's say that person who is very unhappy at work has a new, let's say, a grandchild. And the grandchild, when they're holding the grandbaby, there's this beautiful elation of gratitude and love and awe, and they shift into this part of who they are. And so this is their loving, open, caring, filled with gratitude, gracious character 4. So this person can set themselves up to be a character 4 by spending more time in the presence of those situations or people who bring that out in us. So it's, and then that energetic karmic ball that says, oh, I'm not very happy. I'm just going to do minimal. I'm going to be mean to people, blah, blah, blah. That thing begins to loosen itself up. So it's not just a karmic ball that looks like this, but it becomes more of a whole brain, a whole person. And in there, then we're making decisions. And when we make decisions as a whole brain person, if we've got character 4 online, which is our love and our gratitude and our grace, we're going to make a different decision than if we're just being a powerful character 1, character 2, or character 3.
I can attest to that. I've been learning and mirroring our dog, which joined our family 2 years ago, and just through that playful presence, it brought something to my awareness, which I wasn't aware of, that that could be part of my nature, actually. So I consider myself as a certain type of person, and just over the last years, my perception of myself changed quite a bit. And what if you talk about activating certain patterns or changing your patterns, from listening to you, character 3 and 4 seems to be the most joyous or fulfilling or happiness bringing aspects of ourselves.
Yeah, it is. Well, just think about it. The things that the left brain is good at, it's good at, it takes the present moment, right? It takes the big picture, experiential, just whatever is. And when we just look at what is without judgment, that it's right, wrong, or good, bad, it simply is what it is, and it's delicious, right? Oh my gosh, I'm alive. Do I care? Do I care if it's raining out? No, I'm not saying rain is good or bad. Do I care if it's sunny or if it's cold or if it's hot? No, or I'm sweating. Does it matter? No, it simply is what it is. And it's that acceptance and that sense of gratitude that it doesn't matter what it is, I'm alive. Right? I'm alive. In this moment, I can be filled with incredible, immense gratitude that I get to walk in the rain, or I get to be cold, or I get to whatever, but in the present moment, it's great. But as soon as you go into that left brain, then the left brain takes that present moment and starts dissecting it and naming it with language and making judgments of right, wrong, good, bad, and it becomes a perfectionist. Then it's saying, oh, no, I don't want it to rain today because I want to have a picnic today. And I can't have a perfect picnic if it's raining out. Well, the right hemisphere doesn't care. It's going to put on boots and go stomp in the mud puddles, right? So the left hemisphere becomes this dictator of a preconceived notion about what it wants, which is nothing. It's simply a preconceived notion that is projected, packaged on top of the reality of what is. And it either matches up well and then it is happy, or it is not what it is, what it wants, and then it is not happy. So the left hemisphere becomes extremely conditional even in how it loves someone. I will love you forever as long as you are faithful to me, you are kind to me, you are this, that, or the other. Well, that's a very different kind of love than I don't care who you are and what you do. Wow, my life is graced because of you. And I can feel this internal, incredible, unconditional love for you simply because I know you and I know your heart is open to trying to help heal the planet. It's like, how can I not love that? Right? So everything in that left hemisphere becomes very preconditioned or right, wrong, good, bad in judgment. And it's our stress circuitry. Stress is not fun.
And I mean, you also connected the 4 characters to the hero's journey of basically losing one's understanding of one's true self and identifying oneself with one's persona, to then at some point waking up again to start using this vehicle in a conscious and loving way.
Right.
Could you describe that a bit? What are your discoveries? How do you contribute that to different aspects
of the hero's journey specifically?
Or is that a part of our human journey to create that identity, but then be subject to it, to at some point wake up from it? Is that how it has to happen as a human from your perspective?
Well, I think that, we're these magnificent cells. And when we're born, there's a certain level of order already in there because of our genetics. And then we are invited into an environment. And as we mentioned before you began recording, from a man who comes from Germany, the German culture is very different from your wife's culture, the Mexican culture, right? Yeah. They're like different hemispheres, right?
Oh, yeah.
Not just in the planet, but they're different hemispheres of primary function. So if you're brought up in and I'm like 95% German, so I get that culture because my heritage is German. Then there's a strong structure, and there's a strong discipline, and there's a strong expectation, and there's a strong system. These are strong people with strong discipline.
Rules and duty and
rules and duties and structure and hierarchy, and everybody knows where everybody is, and competition and all that. And then I visit Mexico a month a year, and I'm there because I love the Mexican people. And I love the Mexican people because they function on Mexican time. And Mexican time is, well, maybe and maybe not. Right. And I love that because it's like it's more chaos, spontaneous, it's chaos. Well, it can be, but it's just a completely
more flowing,
different.
Yeah.
It is. It's flowing. That's exactly right. If it works out that this works out, then that's great. We'll do that. And otherwise, maybe later in the week. So, which is, would drive the German population absolutely insane because it doesn't work like that, right?
So absolute inefficient. Yeah.
But
we're wasting our time.
Exactly. But that's because the primary energetic of the brains of these populations are different, and they're just very different. So we can take you and put you in a right brain culture, and you can actually find more joy, because otherwise you're going to be very unhappy, right? Because it's going to drive you insane. So, it's like, okay, well, yeah, I'm going to give this a try, and I'm going to be playful, and I'm going to be here. And oh my gosh, I find that I actually get as much, if not more, done because I'm doing what I feel like doing when I feel like doing it. And so I go from this, and then I do that, and then I do this, and I do that. And I'm crossing all this stuff off the to-do list, but I'm just not defining before I start my day what the order is in which I'm going to do that. So they're just very different ways of processing. So I'm born with a certain circuitry. I'm placed in an environment. It's going to influence me in different ways. And then ultimately, if I learn what my choices are, and I can begin to identify who does what well when, then they can start negotiating with one another. So I still have that very strong German in me. I have that very strong character 1, and I call her Helen, Hell on Wheels. She gets it done. And then I have this very strong character 3, playful, who's creative and open, and I call that Pigpen because it's always making a mess. And I actually can then negotiate, and I can say, Helen can say to me, Jill, Pigpen, I need a day and a half of work. I need to put it on the calendar. And then my character 3 can say, okay, and look at the calendar and say, okay, I'll give you all day Friday and half of Saturday. Is that enough? And character 1 will go, yeah, that'd be fantastic. And so they negotiate, they agree. And then the rest of the time, I get to go be my Pigpen self. And Helen, character 1, respects my time away. So Pigpen, it doesn't always say, oh yeah, but I got to go do this. I got to go do that. I got to go do this. I don't have to feel bad about my play time because I have negotiated with my responsible time, and they're both on the calendar. So when I work, I work. When I play, and it's lovely.
So it's really kind of creating a team with a different aspects of yourself. Huh?
Yeah. Why wouldn't we want that? Because if my character 1 go to work is happy and my character 3 go to play is happy, then my little unhappy character 2 can't come in and be happy when I'm being my 1 or my 3 or my 4. And so little character 2 who wants to be unhappy is happy because we don't have any conflict. It's lovely. And the quote you were making was peace. Peace is just a thought away. Peace. Who doesn't want peace inside their own head? Peace is just a thought away. I have the capacity instantaneously to step into the consciousness of my peace because I know that part of me. I can step into my stress instantly too.
In your book, you introduce a couple of questions to reflect and also some recommendations of processes to maybe make a step towards peace. Do you want to share some of what you have found to be helpful to kind of negotiate between the aspects of yourself?
Absolutely. So the first thing you need to do is you need to really get to know each of the four characters because they're all so different and we all have all four of them. So there's chapters on each one of those individuals. And then I want you to really think about, when are you that person? So like my character one, she goes to work, hell on wheels, she gets it done. She's on the phone, she's in the office, she's on podcast, she's doing her business. She's got this voice, she's got glasses and earrings in, she puts on a brain on her shirt and off she goes. She combs her hair. Pig Pen never combs her hair, right? She ties it up in a little knot and that's it for the day. So step into your character one and then think about your character one. Once you've really gone through those details of knowing who is that person, feel it, embody it. And then think about who likes your character one, who in your family, who in your friends, who in your colleagues, who really likes your character one, who calls you up and says, Simon, I got a project for you. Are you ready? And you go, oh yeah, okay, let's talk about it, right? And then Simon comes out and you guys start, brainstorming on your ideas. And who comes to you for that? And who can't stand that part of you? You're okay, I'm going to guess.
My wife.
Yeah, I'm going to guess it's your wife. So I got a strong character, right brain going on. And you come to the dinner table, right? And you're going, yeah, no, I did this and that and the other. And she's looking at you like, do you think maybe you could think about your food, come to the present moment, be with me, right? So who likes your character one? Who doesn't get along with your character one? And really build this neural network. You're like a big neuron in your own neural network. Who likes this person? Who avoids your character one? You pick up the phone and you say, Simon. Well, who says, well, hi, Simon, how are you? And who says, Simon, could you maybe call me back later? Right? Because they're not really after Simon 1. They want Simon 3, who's more fun. So, and do that for your little character 2. When you're in pain, when you're unhappy, let's say somebody calls you up and you find out that one of your good friends just got a bad diagnosis, health diagnosis, and your little heart just wants to break because it's like, oh my gosh, I love them. I don't want them to be going through this. Who do you call? Who does your little character 2 reach out to in order to help nurture me and hold me and let me know everything's going to be okay? Or who calls you? Who calls your character 4 to come in and love them because they're brokenhearted and they just need love? So build that network. Who likes your little character 2? Who loves your little character 2? When your little character 2 just wants to bitch and moan, who's it call? Right? You got that pal. It's like, rah, 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 rah. And then they go, oh, yeah. And then we just have this little character 2 fest. Who is that for you? Map these people out in a big neural network for all 4 of your characters. And then you really have a sense of who are you and who are the people in your world and what are those relationships like? And do they fuel you? Do they serve you? Do they take energy away from you in a way that you don't want that? And if so, do you want to create a healthy boundary with that? Or do you want to invite more of it? So all of a sudden now I'm looking at all the 4 pieces of myself. I'm looking at my entire environment of people, and I'm really taking a good reflection on where do I find peace? How do I find the best of who I am? Who brings out the best in me? And it might be who brings out my best character 1, who brings out my most playful character 3. Who just loves me no matter what I do unconditionally? They just love me because they love me. And who really likes to make me angry? Who pokes at me? Look at all of those relationships through this structure, and wow, you can't help but have your life change.
You also have a couple of guidelines or to kind of in stressful moments or to make decisions. I think you call it BRAIN, one of those processes, the acronym. which
Yes.
introduces a couple of steps one can consciously go through to reorientate oneself.
Yes, to pull it all together. If you look at these 4 groups of cells as your team, then what do teams do? They huddle, right? They get together, they communicate, they take the next play, and then they go onto the playing field of life, if you will. So this is a tool called the Brain Huddle. And BRAIN is an acronym, BRAIN, but it's about the 4 characters. So at any moment in time, any of the 4 characters can be empowered, and you need to practice this. We all need to practice this. Each of our 4 characters calling a brain huddle when we don't need it, because we need a brain huddle when our little unhappy character 2 gets a hook on us. Because when that little character 2 starts ranting and raving, it probably loves and finds that rant and rave delicious, and it doesn't want to stop, right?
Yeah,
so when we practice the brain huddle, when everybody's calm, then we learn how to do the huddle so that we have it when we need it. So what is a brain huddle? B, breath. Bring your mind to the present moment. Why is it meditation, yoga, prayer? Why is everything so focused on breath? Because it's the first thing we do when we're born. It's the last thing we do before we die. And it's a train that runs the track of the present moment. So as long as if I ever want to bring my mind to the present moment, go to my breath. It takes the focus away from everything else and puts the energy right here, right now. So B, breath. R is recognize which of the 4 characters just called this huddle. Was I being a character 1 or 2 or 3 or 4? Who called the huddle? And that's why you need to practice all of them so that you have the ability to easily call all of them. So recognize which character was I. So, okay, let's say right now I'm talking to you. I'm being a character 1. So Helen's going to call a huddle. B, breath. Bring my mind to the present moment. R, recognize who called the huddle. Helen just called the huddle. A is appreciate regardless of which character called the huddle. There's 4 of us. Right? There are 4 inside of the head. So BRA, appreciate there's 4 of us. I, inquire. Okay, who do I want to be? They're all right here. Which of the 4 do I want to be? Well, in this moment, it's still appropriate for me to be Helen, character 1. Pigpen is chomping at the bit to go open that care package I got. It's not appropriate, right? So that's an internal negotiation. It's like, okay, inquire, who next? Okay, we're going to stay Helen for a little bit longer, and then Pigpen gets to go open that package. So I inquire, which one do we want to be? And then N stands for navigate. Navigate the next moment. I'm still with you. I'll be Helen as long as I'm with you. And then as soon as we're going to navigate that next moment as Pigpen, because she wants to go rip that box open. So that's it. That's the brain huddle. We have the power to choose moment by moment who and how we want to be. So if I need to go to work and it's like, okay, why am I procrastinating? Character 1 can come online and say, let's get it done, right? Let's just get it done. Stop procrastinating, do the job. And then we can go play. And you know, then it becomes, oh, well, I don't really want to. It's like, no, you know, let's be clear here. You can whine and complain later. We're going to get the job done. And then we're going to go do this. And then we can go do that. And it's like, let's talk about it in that brain huddle. And it's a lovely way to live one's life.
Thank you for sharing this and providing that context. And one thing I like about what you're presenting, and that has over the past a bit been my own maybe misconception of personality profiling, that they tend to put you in a box and describe you. You're like this, but from what I learning or hearing from you, it is more about opening up to all the qualities available and then consciously picking those which fit a certain situation, possibly.
Right. You know, I think the beauty of whole brain living is it is this lovely marriage between the anatomy of the brain and the psychology of understanding us behaviorally. And so many psychological paradigms, I'm not going to criticize them, but I am going to say if they're not neuroanatomically based, it's a psychological paradigm. This is a neuroanatomical psychological paradigm, which I think is why it's so easy to understand. We can all relate to it. It's like kids pick this stuff up automatically. You can spend 5 minutes teaching kids about their 4 characters and about the brain huddle. And then you can say, okay, let's think about Harry Potter. Who's the character 1 in Harry Potter? Kids will tell you immediately, Hermione. Well, of course it's Hermione. She's a little educated one. She's always got her nose in the book. She's teaching the others how to do these things. Who's character 3? They'll tell you. You tell children, you ask children, little children, okay, let's go to SpongeBob. Who's the character 1? They'll tell you. I mean, because it's so apparent. These are 4 characters, character profiles. You watch any movie, you're going to find your 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are 4 well-established character profiles of humanity. They are based in the anatomy of the brain. Well, why is it until now that we're really realizing we all have all 4? We can differentiate, we can train ourselves, and we can create a team inside of my own brain. It's just a matter of differentiation. It just took a brain scientist to lose her conscious brain and explore what we call the unconscious brain to bring that into consciousness. And so we can be conscious of our whole brain.
So what I'm hearing also, what I'm implying is that basically a lot of those conceptual proposals for personality types, they're a perception of left brain dominant worldview, possibly, and not from a whole brain perspective.
I mean, I've been deep into Myers-Briggs, and for years but it was actually in thinking about Myers-Briggs that I said to my dad when I was 20 years old, he was a psychologist, minister, and he used Myers-Briggs work. And when I was like 18 or 20, he typed me and he said, Jill, you're an INTJ. And I thought about that. And I said, well, I am when I'm working, but what about when I'm at play? Because I am the exact opposite when I'm at play. I'm very extroverted. I'm very people-based. I'm very emotionally connected to others, and I'm open to possibility. So my 2 personalities for my right hemisphere and my left hemisphere, I recognized at the age of 20. Don't tell me I'm an INTJ because I'm a whole lot more fun than that, except at work. And so that was the beginning for me for really, and I said to my dad, so he ended up writing something called the Taylor indicator that never made it big into the world because Dad was a right brainer and it wasn't going to happen. But he created a Taylor indicator that actually took the Myers-Briggs programming and said at work, I am this at work, or I am this at play. And that actually gave people then 2 personalities that they could then relate to based on whether they're at work or at play, because most of us are different when we're at work and when we're at play. And so that's where my interest began with psychology. But then I became a neuroanatomist. And as I got into the anatomy of the brain and knowing about how the brain evolves over time, and us as humans, and then how does our brain create our perception of reality, which was my area of specialty when I was at Harvard. And then I had the hemorrhage that wiped out the left hemisphere. Well, what was there was this right hemisphere, but what I gained back in the left hemisphere wasn't just a left hemisphere. It wasn't a left emotional character profile and a left thinking character profile, which made sense from a neuroanatomical perspective.
That's so fascinating to listen to your perspectives, but because it's just so unusual.
Which is funny because neuroanatomically it is what we are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it feels very natural. Yeah, it feels very very open, very inclusive, very non-judgmental, very inviting, and very human.
Yeah.
So
and all of a sudden now I can say to you, you're a little character too, blah, blah, blah. And now you're not going to take it personally because I've got the exact same stuff. So we don't take things personally. It's like, okay, I can learn and grow about this part of my brain.
Yeah. Dear Jill, Bolte Taylor, thank you so much, for taking the time to come here and to share from your experience and also for sharing your passion and really inspiring us. It was a honor and a true pleasure. I don't know. Do you have something more you want to share with the audience?
I just, first of all, thank you, Simon. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you inviting me into this conversation. I just think that we all have so much more power over what's going on inside of ourselves than we've ever been taught. And I truly believe that whole brain living is a great roadmap to helping somebody find peace. And I truly believe the more peace we feel, the more peace we will project into the world, and the more peaceful our planet will be. So that's kind of the bottom line for me.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I will add the link to your webpage and your books to the show notes and the description of this conversation so that everybody who is interested can learn more about you and your work. And thank you so much. I wish you all the best. And thank you again for your time. And of course, also to all our listeners, thank you for being with us and tuning in. My best wishes to you, and see you soon. What's my potential? What's really inside me? Is it possible to be joyful and to express who I truly am? Do I have unique gifts and talents? If I do, how do I find them? And if I find them, how do I bring them into life? And is it even possible to make a living from what I actually love to do? Those were some of the questions which drove me now more than a decade. And I don't want to give you a definitive answer, but I learned very valuable principles on my quest that helped me to discover who I am and to bring what I am actually into this life, beyond expectations, beyond conditioning, beyond limiting or self-defeating negative thoughts. And now I want to be the bridge and pass those principles on to you. And not only remind you with my words, but actually enable you to discover and experience that for yourself, real self-discovery, that you are a wonderfully creative being, a genius in the truest sense of the word, and you have the potential and the possibility to unfold what is actually in you and set yourself creatively free. This is my mission. Very important, please don't believe my words or possibly your own skeptical thoughts, but check it out, experience it for yourself, and take part in our next seminar, Structural Creativity. More information here. I'm really looking forward to set your creativity free.